I'm Vicky the Nerdy Crone, and today's video is going to be slightly different with regards to a request in the comments section of another YouTuber that I follow, the Grumpy Old Crone, and I commented about an experience that I'd had, and somebody else said, well, why don't you do a video on it? I kind of already have done a video I'm going to talk about, but it was part of a much earlier video I did a few years back on growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, and it was part of that. And so this video is going to be a response to the why don't you make a video on it and maybe filling out that a little bit more. It's a weird way to say it, but that's how it is. If I sound a bit lispy, it's because I've had colds in the family and I've ended up with a tongue full of ulcers, so I'll do my best, but there we go. I'll just give you a short background where I'm coming from and then go into the actual story. Basically, I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, and there is a selection of videos I call the Panda videos about me growing up as a witness. So if you want to look at them, great. I'll try and put a link in, at least one of them. If anybody knows much about Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe themselves to be Christian. They don't believe in birthdays, they don't believe in Christmas, they don't believe in having fun, basically. That's all evil and pagan and wrong. So anyway, I was brought up from birth to be a witness. I had no choice in the matter. But when I became a teenager, my parents went from going to the meetings every day and being good little witnesses, or so I thought, to getting divorced and being kicked out of the religion. And us children technically still being in it. Especially as me and my sister below me were teenagers, we were kind of given a choice to keep going. I feel in hindsight my mother, who I was living, had a legal right to stop us going, but I think she thought she was doing the right thing, but we're not going into that part of it. But anyway, when I was 16 I left home and went to college. Now witnesses, especially at that time, I think times have changed recently, so they're not so against people going into higher education. But when I was a witness at 16 and I left school, you were expected to leave school, get a part-time job and go on the doors and preach. Ideally, if you could stay at home and not work and go on the doors and preach, that was even better. But there we go. So I left home at 16 to go and to college, which would please my parents, but also it meant that I would be freer to worship God and be a good little witness. But what I discovered was the witness congregations that I'd grown up with, who were perhaps a bit more accepting of my situation, parents were under the influence of Satan because they'd left the religion, to a congregation that was like, oh, you still shouldn't be going to college, that's not a good thing. I didn't sort of say it initially, but eyebrows were raised at the fact that I was going to college and that I'd moved away from home to go to college. Eyebrows were raised anyway from the word go, which I found quite surprising because I always thought that everybody believed in the same thing, and going from one to another was quite a culture shock. I sort of settled in and I ended up moving from one congregation to another because initially I was staying with another witness lady and that did not turn out very well. We didn't quite gel, but anyway, I moved to closer to my college, and because of that I had to live with non-witness people. But because I was just renting a room off them, I didn't really get involved in the family at all. In the meantime, I had to move congregations as well, and I met this young guy who was roughly about my age. He was into landscape gardening, and the course that I was doing was a horticultural course, so we had something in common. It was quite nice. I was 17, he was 18, so nice age difference and everything. Nice guy. He was a pioneer, which meant that he was doing lots of door work, and he was considered someone who was going to do well in the congregation. You can see where this is going, can't you? Anyway, he took a bit of a shine to me, And me being an innocent young lady didn't really thought, you're kind of taught that the first brother that comes along that pays attention to you is probably going to be the one. That's the way you're taught from a very young age. And so I suppose you could say we ended up sort of dating. We certainly went on one proper date together, I can tell you that. We went ice skating, but it was a double date. It was okay because we were with another couple, so that was okay. So we were chaperoning each other. So we went on this double date, and then I went home for the Christmas holidays, and he phoned me. Now I may have given him my number. Looking back, I possibly did, but I didn't remember giving it to him, and he had my number, and I was like, oh. And we started chatting and everything. And then he started asking me when I got back to go on the doors with him. Now, when you start going on the doors with, bear in mind, I was baptised by this point as well. That's another story that I'm not going to go into. I was baptised by this point. So he was a baptised pioneer, so he was a goodie, and I was baptised but a bit wayward because I was at college. Getting an education, trying to better myself. And also, he was vegetarian, and I was vegetarian as well at that point. I'm not vegetarian anymore. And so we had a few things in common. Anyway, so to cut a long story short, we started going on the doors together, which is another form of informal dating, really, in the witnesses. If you go on the doors, preaching, you know how they go up, and you've seen them. They hang around on the corner and all meet up and compare notes and everything. And then they all go up and down the road. And if you're really clever, you can pretend you're out or whatever, or just not interested. So people were seeing us on the doors together. And so I'm slowly being drawn into possibly the marriage route. Let's put it that way. If things had gone the way that witnesses would have wanted, he would have proposed and we would have got serious, and then the pressure for me to leave college would have been astronomical, because I would be told there's no need to go to college because the world's going to end anyway and you're getting married, and that would have probably completely cut me off from my parents as well. I was not having a good relationship with them at the time either. Our relationship is a lot better now, and so to have this young guy pay interest in me, I knew where it was going to go, and that's all the background that you need to know of the situation I was in. So I'm on the doors with this guy, and we happen to knock on the door of this pagan couple. Now, I've been taught that if you knock on someone's door and they say they're a pagan or something, you go, oh, thank you, and run away. That's what I was taught, because pagans are evil and bad, and you don't want to go anywhere near them because they're the servants of Satan. So we knock on the door, and it's answered by this very friendly bloke who is a pagan, and very proudly tells us he's a pagan. He's like, oh, Jehovah's, let's have a chat. And I'm thinking, we're supposed to go now, but of course my partner, if you say my door partner, this guy, is quite happy to enter into a chat with them. And I'm like, oh. Because I'd always been taught, well, they say pagan, you run. So anyway, he's there and they're having a good old chat. Obviously, I don't say anything because I'm a woman and I'm just supposed to sit there and listen. And you'll notice that if you ever have the knocking on the door, if it's a man and a woman, the man will do all the talking. The woman does not do the talking. If it's two women, it's the dominant woman who does the talking, unless it's the other woman's turn. They take it in turns to do the talking. And even if there's a young man there and a woman there or whatever, and it's her turn to do the talking, the man will normally take over after the initial introduction. If the conversation is going anywhere, then the man will take it over. So they start having this conversation, and he says, well, rather than stand out here in the cold, why don't you two come in and have a cup of tea? And I'm thinking, right, this is the bit where we go now. This guy is we're going in and we're sitting in the living room of the Satan worshippers. And there he is, and there's his wife there, and he introduces us to his wife, and she seems like a nice lady, and I'm looking around, and there's little witchy ornaments, and the pentagram in the room. But problem is, I don't feel any evil in the room. There's no Baphomet. there's nothing scary. There's just a pentagram. There's no skulls in the room or anything. There's a few toadstools and a few nice little plants. And it was really a few throws on the sofa. And it was really cozy. It was really nice. And the lady brought us in a cup of tea. And we drank the tea. And nothing happened to us. And as I say, my door partner, he's deep in conversation with this pagan guy. And the lady sits in a corner and she just sort of smiles and to say she made us a cup of tea. And I must admit, it was really cold out there. And I was very grateful for that cup of tea. And I'm just sitting and listening, and he's making some very good points, this pagan guy, on the fact that he would never allow his children. He said, if I have children, eventually I'm going to have children, and when I have children, they are not going to read the Bible. And I was going, well, why would you not want them to read the Bible? Well, because of all the, I'll say, inappropriate behaviour that goes on in the Bible. And we're talking Dinah here, the Dinah story. That's one of the reasons that he wouldn't allow his children to read the Bible, because he wouldn't want his children to be exposed to that kind of behaviour. What happens to her and what is done to her, not the fact that I was brought up that with the Dinah story and told that what happened to Dinah was her fault. Oh no, not me. But anyway, so they're having conversations like that about, the Bible is inappropriate, how horrible things happen in the Bible, and you wouldn't want to expose children to that. And I'm sitting there thinking, he's actually got some really good points. And as I say, they have this conversation, we have a cup of tea. Nothing bad happened, and they were just kind to us. They treated us kindly. They didn't take the piss out of our religion. He was quite happy to give his opinions on the Bible and stuff like that, but he didn't mock our religion or what we believed. He just treated us with kindness and respect. We had a nice cup of tea, and then we left. A couple of weeks later, I found out that he was also a student at my college, because he goes, oh, hello. You're a Jehovah's Witness, aren't you? And I'm just like, hey. It's just like, face beetroot. Almost as bad as when I was on the doors and with somebody else. And the person to answer the door was one of the computer tutors at the college. That was another one. Oh, red-faced moment there. But anyway, so to round this up, basically, I then met another pagan the college, and we started to have some chats and stuff. He was a young guy, but he never judged what I believed or anything. He would just say, oh, and I believe I believe in this. He'd never sort of say, well, what you believe is wrong. He would say more like, oh, that's interesting, I believe in this, and he would explain what he believed. And it was just that he came across, and the way that the other bloke came across was they weren't judging me, they were just explaining that they believe different, and that other people, just because somebody believes something different to you doesn't mean that they're bad or wrong or anything, and they just treated me kindly and with respect. And I think that had a big impression on me, because I'd always been told that pagans were evil and they wanted to sacrifice virgins. And honestly, there are witness magazines that tell you all of this, and they're all pagans are Satan worshippers, and they have pictures on the front of them with hooded men with daggers, and then they show you pictures of the tarot cards, and they always show you 3 tarot cards, which is Death, the Devil, and the Tower. And they always have them from the Marseille deck, so they're as scary as possible. Then they always have a picture of some guy bowing down to a priestess with a pentagram on the floor and all the incense. And there's all this sort of imagery that says paganism, evil, danger, all this kind of stuff. And then when you actually meet pagans and they just say, we hug trees and we love nature and stuff like that, and you're thinking, but really does something to your, what do they call it? Oh, I've forgotten the word. Cognitive dissonance. It does something to your cognitive dissonance. But basically the upshot of all of this is it started to make me ask questions. It started getting me thinking, well, if these people are nice and nothing happened and they're not evil and some of the stuff they talked about was right, then what am I being taught? It made me question what I'd been brought up to believe. And that led me down a whole new path, because within, I don't know whether it was them, maybe they put some magic. That tea I drank, there was some magic in it. Was I think within 3 months of meeting that couple and being invited into their house and meeting the other pagan bloke or anything, as I say, no one ever influenced me, as in you come to over to the dark side or anything like that. It was just, but within 3 months, I had stopped going to JW meetings and I was avoiding anybody that wanted to offer me a lift, and they were starting to get funny with me. And I'd even turned down the bloke saying that I'd been partnering up with, saying, I don't want to come on the doors with you anymore. Basically, and within 6 months of that, I'd completely abandoned the witnesses. I met a boyfriend. It's crazy. You think by the summer of that year, I was a completely different person. And I don't know, it could have been that the magic got to me. I could have been corrupted by the pagans, who knows? And I did start to explore that. Once I was completely away from everything, I did start to, I started to explore divination and tarot and all the things that I've been taught are bad, evil. And then I think I dabbled in spiritualism for a little bit. And that was good. And I'll tell you what, spiritualists are some of the most lovely people, tolerant, proper Christians, I would say. They actually embrace Christian ethos about being kind to people. I think they actually live up to what being Christian is about, even though lots of Christians don't like them because they also commune with the dead, those that have passed, and commune with spirit. But you got to hand it to them. I mean, with me and my second husband, we got married in a spiritualist church. My in-laws, my late mother-in-law and my father-in-law, they were both quite strong spiritualists as well. So, and I did eventually though drift more into paganism and witchcraft, and then I've obviously been a solitary witch for most of my adult life now, I would say, because I did explore a Wiccan coven that did not work out so well. But I've recently joined a druid grove and I'm feeling a lot more druidy these days. I certainly feel that that's the right path for me. And also, very ironically, so I have a better relationship now with my parents. My dad is also now pagan and runs his own groups in his area. He's had some more Wiccan stuff. So that's the upshot of my story, basically. Is if you're a witness, be careful who you knock your door on, because they might turn you into a pagan. I would say though, if I ever met those people again whose door we knocked on, I would say thank you, because you've set me on the path to freedom without even realising it. You set me on the path to freedom. And so wherever you are, whoever you are, thank you. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my little story. And all that remains to be said is take care, look after yourselves, and mind how you go.